I have been reading a lot lately, and sorry about the rain, instead of like making an individual video about each book I'm interested in, or posting about them on Tumblr, I decided why don't I just make a video where I talk about all of them in the month. I want to preface this video by saying I am not very good at reading. If you're looking to watch a video made by someone intelligent, look somewhere else. But without further ado, here is all the books I read in May. The first book I read this month was called The Greek Way by Edith Hamilton. I started reading it Tuesday, April 30th, and I finished reading it May 3rd at 12:58. Let me tell you, I did not like this book at all. I actually didn't like quite a few of the books I read this month, which is really disappointing. I feel like y'all are gonna think I'm like the biggest hater in the world and I only read books so that I can hate on them, but it's not true at all. Literally the first 4 books I read in my life, I loved all of them. I loved Lolita, I loved Dracula, I loved The Feminine Mystique, I really liked Animal Farm, and like as soon as the month of May started, I just magically started picking books that I just didn't like. I promise I'm not a hate reader, I just got unlucky this month. I thought this book was gonna... So I'm interested in Greek mythology, I'm interested in Greek philosophers, I'm interested in how life worked in certain parts of the world at certain points in history, and this book is just Edith like on her knees sucking ancient Greek's dick the whole time, and she keeps saying shit that isn't true. Like, at the beginning of the book, she's comparing ancient Greece to ancient Egypt, and she is like, ancient Egypt was awful because they had slaves. Sorry about the fly, he lives here, he's my roommate. Ancient Egypt had slaves, and that's why ancient Egypt sucked, because ancient Greece didn't have slaves in the way that ancient Egypt had slaves. Ancient Egyptians were spending all of their stupid time building pyramids, using hundreds and thousands of slaves to do stupid stuff like build pyramids. Meanwhile, my awesome Greek senpais were philosophizing, creating beautiful works of art, creating beautiful plays, writing beautiful books, and the stupid ancient Egyptians were too busy using slaves to build giant stupid cats to do any of that. So that's why the ancient Greeks were so much cooler and they make such better art and I love them more. And it's like, okay. And then later on in the book, she's like, okay, well actually the Greeks did have slaves, but... okay, actually the Greeks had slaves, but the Greeks are kind of genius for having slaves because they understood that for society to progress and for them to have all the food that they needed in Greece and for them to have all of the labor they needed in Greece, they needed slavery. They were smart enough to have slaves. And actually, slave owners were, direct quote, the champions of freedom. And actually there was one Greek philosopher, it was like Socrates or Aristotle or something. Actually Socrates or Aristotle or something was actually the first person ever to think, hey, maybe slavery is a bad thing. So, of course, it would be a Greek philosopher that would be smart enough, brave enough to even consider that maybe slavery is a bad thing. Like, Edith, are we pro-slavery or are we against slavery? We're pro whatever your favorite Greek philosopher is at this point. I don't know. Maybe, because I'm not gonna lie, my reading comprehension is pretty low. But maybe I read this wrong. It seems like Slavery really doesn't come up that often in this book. It's mostly just talking about how much she loves Greek plays. But every time slavery did come up, she was just kind of on whatever side the Greeks were on during that paragraph of that chapter. Also, this is part of, like, curriculum in schools, apparently. And I have no idea how, because this book is, like, 90% opinion. And just, it's like she uses so many opinionated words, like awesome, amazing, to just describe random shit that the Greeks did. And don't get me wrong, I love ancient Greece, but goddamn, Edith, you know? After that, I read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Aldous, I'm sorry. I didn't like it. I felt bad because I really expected to like it. Also, the mighty novel of a soulless, streamlined Eden and the two who escaped it, that didn't happen. I don't know, I really like the title, I like the cover, I like these two naked people on the front of it. So, I was excited to read it. I thought I was gonna like it. I started reading it, May 5th, 2024 at 3:28 p.m. and I stopped reading it May 5th, 2024 at 11:46 p.m. This book was just fucking weird. This book made me hate being alive. 'Cause, like, it starts off with just, like, an entire 2 chapters about, like, breeding mechanisms. Like, the entire first third of the book, or maybe like fourth of the book, is just them describing this, like, medical new age sciencey infirmary where they make children in these fucking petri dishes, or I don't remember exactly what they called it, but the children are made not from mothers, they're made from science, and then they train the they categorize the children by prettiest to most deformed, and the prettiest ones, they give them stimuli to make them be achievers in life. And the ugly, deformed ones, they make them afraid of happiness. They like train them to be afraid of flowers, and they're like, well, if they like flowers, then they're gonna want to go visit flowers instead of working in a factory. They're gonna want to go to gardens and shit. We need them in the factories working for us. So, we train them from the time they can crawl. We, like, put flowers in front of them, and then they crawl towards the flowers. And then we go, ah! We make them cry. I don't know. It's like talking about the mechanics of breeding children in a lab for the first fourth of the book. After which they are sent down to the embryo store, where we now proceed ourselves. So yeah, basically in this world there's like, I don't know, like 5 castes of people, not including the government. There's alphas, betas, zetas, all the way down to epsilons. Epsilons are like ugly, and they have 12 arms, and they're like 3 foot nothing, and these people do the jobs that nobody wants to do, and they're trained to love that. Higher up people, they get to work in like infirmaries, and they get to work making these stupid jingles. Hug me till you drug me, honey, kiss me till I'm in a coma. Hug me, honey, snugly, bunny, love's as good as Soma. Soma's like Valium. Soma is like perks. Everybody in the society, they don't believe in strong emotions. So if you're ever like sad, they just give you Soma and it chills you out, and like you wake up a couple hours later and you're just like calm with it. Anyway, there's this guy, I forget his name, but he's like not like other guys, and there's this girl that, I don't know, I think I'm supposed to interpret it as them like dating and being in love, but I don't think they like each other, and I don't like her as a person. And they, as like punishment for not being down with the sickness, they have to go outside of society to a place that was never taken over by this government. And it's like a bunch of people who believe in Jesus Christ. And they speak languages other than English, and their races other than white, and they have like culture, and they read books and stuff. And like, yeah, they do some like jungle-y things, like they whip each other with whips because they think it'll make it rain. Cool stuff like that. And they go there and she's like, oh, the horror. I don't know, the whole time the book, I think what I'm supposed to be getting from it is, wow, I'm glad I don't live here. I'm glad society isn't like that. Which, yeah, I do, but this doesn't make me like my reality anymore. I don't know, I'm doing a really bad job at describing it, but somehow everything that happened in this book made me hate their reality and mine at the same time. I think the reason I don't really fuck with the message is because the stuff this book implies that they're missing out on is stuff that I do not want. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to be like, aw, they're not allowed to get pregnant. That's so sad for them. And I'm not like, aw, they're not allowed to give birth. They're not allowed to participate in government. They aren't allowed to be aware of the horrors of life. It's like, good for them. And the stuff that they really are missing out on, no one in this book cares about. Like, there's like maybe 2 people in this entire book that care about the insane censorship in their world. Like, there's one guy that wants to read Shakespeare, and there's another guy that's like, yo, who the fuck is Galileo or some shit like that. Like, it's hard to feel bad for them for not getting to have real relationships with like parents and children and boyfriend and girlfriend. It's hard to care because none of them want that. Like, it's kind of implied that maybe they could want it, but it's like the mighty novel of a soulless, streamlined even, and the 2 that escape it. With that and this picture, I assume it's like a fucky world, kinda like this one, and 2 people that like are knocked out of the trance that they're in and they escape it. But that's not what happens. They just take a vacation to like Africa or something, and then they come back and they're like, that was weird anyway. The only person that like kind of escapes it was never in it. He was in it for like 10 minutes and then he was like, I'm going to Haiti. I don't know, I'm doing a really bad job at describing this book, but it made me hate life. Also, real quick, there's like way too much rhyming in this book. Like, they live in a world that's ran by like jingles and, I don't know, little rhymes to make you want things, but for the most part they just want perks and sex. So they have like this weird orgy-porgy chant that they keep doing in the book, and I'm like not into it. Next, I read The Hobbit. I read it from the 6th to the 10th. I actually really liked it. I'm considering reading the Lord of the Rings books after this. I understood what was happening like the entire time. I think it like had the perfect amount of world building to like keep me engaged without it being like, okay, too much description, I can't pay attention to this, you know what I mean? My favorite part of the book was Gandalf. Like, I just want to hear more about Gandalf, honestly. I don't really give a shit about Bilbo. Like, he's cool and everything, but he's kind of a complainer. I want his fucking ring, though. Also, this book is way more racist than I thought it would be. Like, this is my first, like, delve into any kind of fantasy situation, so I've heard that it's like this in other universes as well, but I was just kind of surprised that they have dwarfs, goblins, elves, miniature people. I don't know. What's the word for opposite of giants? I don't know. But they have, oh yeah, hobbits, dwarfs, goblins, elves, other shit. And like all of them hate each other. I know the world you and I live in has racism, but I just think racism is so stupid. So when it's represented in a mythological setting like this, it just reminds you of how stupid it is. Like that episode of Rick and Morty with the snake, where they visit a snake planet, and it's like there was a planetary war because of race, and Rick is like, imagine being a racist snake. Hey snake, I hate you because you're the wrong color snake. I think it's kind of like that for me. Like hobbits, goblins, elves, dwarves, whatever, and they all hate each other because they're the wrong kind of tiny person. And like Dwalin and Balin and Fallen. Who else? I don't know, there's like 12, dwarves, goblins, I don't know. There's 12 bitches that come on this journey with them, and they're like all so mean, and they're all haters, and like, I would have caused so many problems if I was Bilbo. But Bilbo's better than me because in the end, they ended up all being friends. I think someone died. I think 2 people died, but the one that matters is Thorin, I think, died. I like almost cried when Thorin died. It was so sad. This book also has like a lot of rhyming and songs and stuff in it. But like it's kinda cute in this one. It's not like orgy porgy. I don't know. The way the words are. I like the way that this is written. And after that, I read The Grandeurs of Saint Michael the Archangel. This isn't what I thought it would be. It's like, I don't think this is a real book. I got all of these basically from the library book sale, and the library book sale is comprised of donations. I think this belonged to a church, and they used this for worship. I think it's like a hymnal or something like that, and it just got donated, and I thought it was a real book, so I read it, but I read it. This book made me really start to like this Saint Michael guy. I don't know, there was a few things that I didn't really understand. Like, the entire book is just talking about how, like, great and holy Saint Michael is, and, like, how he's so giving and so devoted to God. But at the same time, he's like, yo, build this church in my honor, because I said so. Yo, have this grand party to celebrate me. And it's like, Michael, I thought it wasn't about you. I thought it was about God. But stuff like that's only brought up like twice in the book, so if I ignore that, I'm like totally down with it. I think this book is what it feels like to be a Catholic, 'cause it just made me feel bad about myself. Like, the book just keeps insulting me and telling me how much of a sinner I am, and it's like, you don't even know me. But you're right. But it's like, you're a sinner. You don't pray enough. You aren't full of love. You should pray to God about it. God would never do that, by the way, though. God is so much better than you, and you suck. Like, it doesn't make me feel good about myself. But I started reading it on the 10th. I finished it on the 11th. I don't know. I liked it. It made me feel like shit. And then after that, I read The Crucible. I will not lie to you. This book was hard to read. Like, not the words. Like, I have this problem. I don't know what's wrong with me. I will read a book. I will sit there I will hear each word in my head. I will absorb none of the information. Like, books have to be written in a certain way. They have to grab my attention. They have to be easy to absorb into my brain. Otherwise, I just can't. And I definitely had that problem with The Greek Way and with Brave New World. A little bit with this one. I guess I liked this book. I don't know. It's not what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting. I'm really into books about women, so every time there's like the tiniest chance a book can be about empowering women, my mind goes straight there, and then I'm disappointed that it isn't that. I think this is like kind of about the Salem witch trials. I will not lie to you, I have a really hard time remembering names in books. Like, that's why The Hobbit was kind of lit, because there's only like 3 characters and then like 14 goblins or whatever they were. Like, Bilbo, got it. Gandalf, got it. Was the little guy, you know what I mean? Him. And then there was like 14 elves or whatever they were, and all of their names rhyme. So, you know, as soon as I hear their name, I'm like, oh, it's one of them. And like, individually, they don't matter that much besides like maybe Thorin. So, The Hobbit was kind of cool, because there's like 3 names to memorize, and I got them. And The Grandeurs of Michael is cool, because there's like 1 name, Michaels. But with The Crucible, there's like 10 characters at least, and let me tell you, when I'm reading this, I'm not like, oh, Elizabeth, I know who that is. Oh, Cheever, Giles, Hale, Proctor, Elizabeth, Mary Warren, Proctor, Hale, Danforth, Francis, Herrick, Danforth, Francis, Hale, Francis, Danforth, Danforth. Like, I don't know who these people are. So, I will probably watch The Crucible on YouTube and see, like, if I understand it better when I can, like, see the characters and be like, oh, that bitch. You know what I mean? But because there are so many characters, and because of the way that it was written, I have a pretty hard time following along with who's saying what to who and what's happening. But I don't know. The parts I understood, I guess I liked. After The Crucible, I want to apologize to women. I want to apologize to every bitch on Tumblr who recommended this book. I want to apologize to Lucy Loves Reading, or whatever your name is on Tumblr, who recommended this book. I want to apologize to Bantam Classics. Because I tried to read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I could not fucking do it. This is... okay. It shouldn't even be in this pile of books because I didn't finish reading it. I got to page 108 and I couldn't do it anymore. I started on the 13th, and it just didn't happen. I have no fucking idea what this book is about. I am a third of the way into it. I do not know what's happening. I don't even know who the main character is. I thought it was this bitch. I just saw a woman on the cover and I assumed the book was from a woman's perspective, but I think it might be from a guy's. I still don't know. As far as I can tell, the book is just about a genderless person who doesn't know how to mind their own fucking business. Like, the whole book is just them hanging out in other people's houses, going through their bookshelves, and describing the interpersonal drama of all the people that live in the house. Like, I don't know what's happening in this book. Every line in this book, I've probably read it at least twice because I kept going back because I was like, there's no way that I'm just not absorbing any of these words. There's no way that I'm reading these lines over and over and over again and I have no fucking idea what's happening. I don't know if it's boring and because it's boring, I just couldn't absorb it. I don't know if it's magically written in a way that my brain can't comprehend. I don't know if I'm stupid, but I cannot tell you a single name of a character in this entire book. I can't tell you anything. I cannot tell you anything about this book, and I've read the first third of it twice. I don't know what this book is about, and I hated every second of reading it. Like, up until this book, I was like, I'm never going to quit a book halfway through. If I start a book, I'm going to finish it. That's why I've been, like, reluctant to read longer books. That's why 300 pages is a long book for me right now, because I never wanted to be a quitter. I never wanted to start a book and be like, I don't like it, I'm not going to finish it. I wanted to finish every book, even if I wasn't that into it, because I didn't want to be a quitter and I wanted to give every book a chance. Broke me. This, like, I felt so guilty stopping this, because I didn't want to be a quitter, I wanted to give the book a chance. But, like, I think it took me 5 days to get 100 pages in, and that was, like, reading often. So I quit. I was like, it's going to take me the rest of the month to finish this book, and at the end of the month, I'm not going to be able to tell you a single goddamn thing that happens in this book. So, I don't know. I'm sorry, Emily Bronte. I'm sorry to the Bronte family. I fucking hate this book. It's not good. And then I read Feminism, Mystique or Mistake. The title might sound familiar because it's directed at The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan? I never know how to say her last name. Feminism, Mystique or Mistake. My library book sale never has any books on women's issues, women philosophers, women celebrities. They like very, very rarely have a book written by a woman in the classic section. So I saw the word feminism and I was like, I have to have it. It's an anti-feminism book. I know, I knew that going into it, but I like to hear different people's perspectives on things. So let me just say, either this book is, the title of this book is just baiting you to read it, or Diane, you missed the whole point of The Feminine Mystique. I can't lie to you. Like, she mostly talks about the part of Feminine Mystique that talks about how women aren't completely fulfilled by just being a housewife and a mother. She doesn't really address a lot of the other parts of The Feminine Mystique. It's mainly just the stay-at-home mom aspect of The Feminine Mystique, and I don't think she really was paying that much attention. I don't know, because I want to say it right now. I really enjoyed reading this book. I don't know if it was because I was coming off of the deep, dark depression this book was putting me in, but I just really enjoy reading books from the perspective of someone, whether I agree with them or not, but somebody who is explaining how they feel, explaining their perspective, why they feel that way, in a respectful and concise manner, and I feel like she did that. I really enjoyed reading this from her perspective. She seems like a very nice, kind lady. I think she did a lot of great things in her life. I don't know if she's still alive. I don't know anything. But I think she missed the point of The Feminine Mystique, because The Feminine Mystique says, well, The Feminine Mystique says a lot of things, but The Feminine Mystique says women were housewives and mothers and nothing else. They stayed at home, they cleaned, they cooked, they raised the children, they took care of the husband, they did nothing else. They were lucky if they got to go to church. They had no jobs, no education outside of the home, no hobbies besides maybe getting to play bridge a few times a week. they had a really hard time building connections with people that weren't their family or their neighbors because they had no opportunity to get out of the house. And this was extremely detrimental mentally for the housewives, and this mental stress was also hurting the other people in the house, and it was hurting society as a whole. The Feminine Mystique talks about how these women had multiple suicide attempts. They were all on fucking pills and horse tranquilizers because the life that they were living, where they were confined to their home, not allowed to have any other careers or hobbies, was extremely detrimental for their mental health and for society as a whole because of that. And then she talks about the solution to this problem, and she's like, women, you need to have a purpose in life outside of the home. You need to volunteer at church. You need to go to school for something other than home ec, and you need to become a teacher, a nurse. You need to be able to paint in your home and sell the paintings. You need to be able to have a specialty in something. You need to have a purpose that isn't taking care of your husband and children and nothing else, because you need to be taken care of too. Your brain needs nourishment outside of diapers and stovetops. And Diane is like, that's so not true, because I was a housewife and a stay-at-home mom, and I was so fulfilled because I got to volunteer at church, and I got to help other people in my community, and I got to write books. So I was fulfilled while being a stay-at-home mom, so it's completely possible. And it's like, yeah, Diane, that's what she said to do. You're agreeing with Betty. She was like, I was so fulfilled as a housewife because I had other hobbies. Betty doesn't know what she's talking about. Betty literally said housewives need hobbies. That's literally all she said. I don't know. I'm very, very much simplifying it, but I do think she kind of missed a few points in the Feminine Mystique. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that Diane says. I think she has a problem with lesbians. I don't. Diane is not fond of the lesbian agenda. She makes that clear. But even though I disagree with a lot of stuff in this book, I still really enjoyed reading it. And yeah, I started reading it on the 17th at 9 a.m. and I stopped reading it on the 17th at 11 p.m. And then I read Tales of Ancient Egypt. I started reading it on the 18th and I stopped reading it on the 20th. I liked it. This isn't what I wanted it to be about. It was a little bit about ancient Greek religions. Like in the beginning, they talk about Ra, Isis, Osiris, stuff like that. They talk a little bit about the ancient Egyptian pharaohs and gods and stuff, but that's only really to lead into how human pharaohs were actually reincarnations of them and like related to them. I care a little bit about ancient pharaohs, not a whole lot. I care a little bit more about the religious aspect of it, and I personally wanted to learn more about how ancient Egypt ran as a society, not completely focused on like pharaohs and their interpersonal drama. But so this was not that book. I still enjoyed it anyway. I think this is a great place to start, and I'm gonna pursue books outside of this that are a little bit geared towards what I'm interested in. But I had fun reading this. I had fun reading a lot of the little stories. I think it's really funny reading this book after The Greek Way and being like, damn, this is who Edith hates so much. I personally do lean a little bit more towards being interested in Greek mythology, but I think this was also very interesting and I enjoyed reading it. And then Macbeth. I read Macbeth. I started reading it on the 21st and I stopped reading it on the 24th. This, I was expecting to, like, not get it. Because the entire first, like, large portion of the book, like, literally this much of the book, is explaining how difficult Shakespeare is to read and how you're probably not going to understand anything that's happening because you're stupid, and also because language has changed so much over time, and plays are generally hard for a modern audience to grasp, especially with the language they use, and also we've had to change a lot of the language used because it just doesn't work in a modern context. So I was like, I'm not gonna get this book. I had a hard time reading fucking The Crucible. I'm definitely not gonna get this book. But I did. Like, it really wasn't that hard. The main thing that helped me is in the front of the book, they have a list of all of the characters. Cause, like, I'm not gonna lie, I go to page fucking whatever, and I see Malcolm talking. I'm like, who the fuck is Malcolm? Every time I saw a name I didn't recognize, I just went back to the front of the book. Oh, Malcolm is the eldest son of the King of Scotland. So that helped a lot. Also, on the left of every page is, like, general stage directions of what's happening in the play at the time, and also, like, a dictionary for older words and what they mean. Like the ceiling night is night that blinds the eyes. It's like, oh, okay. But it's so fucking embarrassing. Every time there's, like, a word or a phrase I didn't understand, so I look to the left to see what it means, and it's just not there. Like, I'm the only idiot that doesn't know what these words mean. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed reading this. I mainly cared about the Weird sisters. I think they are so cool. Like, the whole time I was just waiting for the Weird sisters to show up again. I think I'm missing something, or maybe this is different from other versions that exist, or maybe I just didn't absorb the whole thing, and I would if I watched the play. But I feel like people talk about Macbeth in a way that I did not gather from this. Like, the whole thing with Macbeth is, don't say that name. That's fucking Voldemort. Don't say it. Like, at one point in the whole book where they like, no, I can't say that horrible name. Like, it's not like it was a running theme throughout the book that Macbeth is so evil you can't even say his name. Like, I just didn't get that. I also thought Macbeth was gonna be a girl. But he wasn't. I was a little disappointed. But yeah, Lady Macbeth is kind of a bitch. I don't like her. I don't really like Macbeth either. But I love the witches. I love the Weird sisters. Every time, I was calling them the Weird sisters at first because that's how it's spelled, and I was like, there's no way that's their name, so I looked it up. It's pronounced the Weird sisters. But every time their name came up, it changed the way I spoke. So, like, I would start speaking in a Scottish accent or something. It came missives from the king who all hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title for which these Weird sisters saluted me and referred to me in the coming of time with the like, every time their name Weird sisters came up, but the rest of it I sound like Rowena from Supernatural. But I honestly really enjoyed this. I was intimidated to read Shakespeare because everyone says it's like the hardest thing to read. Really wasn't that hard. I don't know. I feel smart. So I'm definitely gonna read more Shakespeare. I really liked it. And then I read Sacred Legacy by Myrna Grant. I started reading it on the 24th. I finished reading it on the 25th. I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't get much out of this book. It says ancient writings from 9 women of strength and honor, so I thought the book was gonna be like a collection of 9 writings from women of strength and honor, but it wasn't. Like, I think maybe I'm reading it wrong or she wrote it wrong, but it was really hard for me to tell when Myrna stopped writing and one of the ancient strength honorable women started writing. There was only like 3 points in the entire book where I recognized it was a woman of strength and honor writing, and the other parts of the book, it's just like from Myrna's perspective, and like I'm sure Myrna's perspective is interesting, but like that's not what I'm here for, and it doesn't really have much to do with why I'm here. I did really enjoy reading Catherine and Teresa, I don't know how to say that name. I liked like the last 2 or 3 women that this was about. Dora, Hoda. I liked hers too, but I wish it was more clear when Myrna was writing versus when the women were writing, and I wish there was more of the women writing, because one of them was just like a letter to her son, and it's like, this is none of my business. It's like a letter to her son before she died and just telling him to praise God. Please, this is my dying wish, son. And it's like, I shouldn't be reading this. Why is this here? What does this have to do with me? It's like, this wasn't meant for me. It was her dying letter to her son. I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed in this, but I read it in a day, so whatever. And then finally, the last thing I read this month was The Fall of the House of Usher and Other Tales by Edgar Allan Poe. You will see there's still a bookmark in the middle of it, because I did not finish it. I finished the 14 tales. All of the short stories in the book I finished, but the entire last half of the book is the narrative of A. Gordon Pym, which is his only full-length novel. I was drained at the end of this, so I am going to pick it up again later. Later I will read the narrative of A. Gordon Pym, but right now I'm going to set this down. But the first half of it, the 14 short stories, I started on the 20th, finished on the 30th. 5 days. This, I'm not gonna lie, is a little bit out of my reading range, I think. I'm not sure. I didn't enjoy most of them, which is really disappointing, because I remember being a really big fan of Edgar Allan Poe's works when I read them in school. But like the first 3, The Balloon Hoax, Miss Found in a Bottle, and Descent into the Maelstrom, the first 3 of them just felt like reading an IKEA instruction manual. Like, I felt like I was reading instructions on how to build a boat, but like boring instructions. Then The Murders in the Rue Morgue was kind of interesting. The Purloined Letter, I don't remember. The Black Cat was a little bit hard for me to pay attention to, but I remember liking it. House of Usher, don't know what's up with it. The Pit and the Pendulum, The Mask of the Red Death, I didn't get either of those. The Cask of Amontillado, I don't know what happened in that story, but I know I liked reading it, so. The Assignation, don't remember it. The Telltale Heart, of course I like The Telltale Heart, that's a good one. Diddling, I really liked. Surprisingly, I think Diddling might be my favorite story in this book so far. And The Man That Was Used Up, I had a really hard time following it. I didn't know what was happening. And yeah, some of them are really fun to read and I really enjoy, and others were just not written in an engaging way for me personally. I had a really hard time following along with a lot of them, which is a problem I have a lot in books. I think just because this is from like the 1800s, it's just written in a way that wasn't made for my iPad Fortnite brain. I don't know. Maybe y'all can relate. Maybe you think I'm dumb. Like, I just have a problem with books where with books that I found really engaging and I really enjoyed, like The Hobbit or Tales of Ancient Egypt, The Feminism Mistake, Macbeth. Books like that, I will open it up and I'll remember exactly where I was and I'll want to keep reading. I will come back to this after a few hours. I won't remember what I just read, and going back won't help, so I'll just keep reading and I won't know what's happening still. So this, I definitely had problems with that. But some of them I really did enjoy. I really enjoyed Diddling, The Telltale Heart, The Cask of Amontillado. I didn't really understand what was happening in The Mask of Red Death, but I liked it. The Black Cat and The Murders in the Rue Morgue were all good. And yeah, these are all the books that I read this month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11, technically 9 were actually finished, so that's like what, a book every 4 days? Yeah, I really enjoyed reading. I'm buying more books than I can handle. I went to a used bookstore for the first time, like yesterday or the day before. I want to show you the books I got. I was honestly kind of disappointed with the selection at the used bookstore. It was like 90% books about war and romance novels, and I'm not interested in either of those. And almost the entire nonfiction section was just true crime. So I was a little bit disappointed. I think I definitely prefer the library book sale. But I did get 5 books. I got Scottish Folk and Fairy Tales, which I'm really excited to read. I got Night Stalks the Mansion. I have never read a scary true crime book before, so I'll give this one a shot, and if I don't like it, I will judge the entire genre based on this one. And I also got Lesbian Nuns Breaking Silence, which I'm kind of psyched to read, but also kind of scared because it's almost 400 pages long, and that's a big book. But this seems really interesting, honestly. And I got a biography on Judy Garland, which I'm actually really interested in. And this one I just got because it was 30 cents. It's called The Portrait of Margarita. I have no idea what it's about, but it was 30 cents, and it's pretty damn short. I think I could finish it in a day. So I got these to add to my giant pile of unread books. And I also got, I'm gonna open it for you now. I'm so fucking excited. My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I have been wanting to read this book for so long. I read like the first 2 pages that you get for free on Google, and I really liked it for some reason. Wow, this book is shorter than I thought it would be. I thought the pages would be like stacked, but that's like pretty widely spaced. I don't know, I'm very excited to read this. Honestly, even though I was like kind of getting bored of this, most of the reason I decided to stop halfway through this one was because I was so excited to start this one. I paid $10 stupid for this book. Books should be $1. Anyway, I'm really excited to read this one. This one will probably be the first book I read in June. Oh my god, it's June. Anyway, yeah. I really want to go to the book sale and get more books. I love collecting them. Like, I wish I was a faster reader so I could read more of them so I could go buy more. But, yeah, that's all I have to say. I will do this again next month, and I am sorry, Emily Bronte. I will do this again next month. I'll show you every book I read in June. And hopefully I'll like more of them in June. I feel really bad that I didn't like half of these. But yes, I hate asking for money online. But if there's a lot of books that I want that I'll have to buy online because I'm never going to find them in real life. So if you want to help me buy books, go to my Patreon. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't post on the Patreon an insane amount. I'll have like a span of a few weeks where I post on it every couple of days, and then it'll be dry for a few weeks. There's like 1 or 2 people subscribed to my Patreon, so I don't have a lot of pressure to post that often. But when I do, I do. There's quite a few videos on there that you can only find on there. So if you want to hear more of my stupid voice and see more of my stupid face, go there. It's like $4 or something. And if you have any book suggestions for me, let me know. I'm on Tumblr at Chemical Jupiter, Pinterest at Shajupi, YouTube at Chemical Jupiter. Thank you so much for watching. Amen.